two components of Oklahoma's secondary that, quite frankly struggled a little bit against Tulane. Was better, obviously, against Western Carolina, but still those are two starters in the secondary with Woodi Washington and Billy Bowman. As you mentioned, Billy Bowman had a little bit of a hamstring thing that happened really early in the game on Saturday against Western Carolina. So as we talked a little bit before last night, as you mentioned, Mark, these hamstrings are kind of funny just in terms of how long. You never really know exactly how long it's going to take. It could be a slight tweak that could, kids could get over it in a week, or it could be something that really kind of bothers him all year long. So, not sure to the extent, but it looks like he's doubtful for this game as well. And so I think Oklahoma's looking at some different options at the nickelback position. I've seen that Oklahoma has started working Justin Harrington there a little bit. They've also started working Delarian Turner-Yell. Wouldn't be surprised to see Delarian Turner-Yell kind of move over to a nickel spot for this week, and maybe Oklahoma, Key Lawrence plays a little bit more at that safety position for Oklahoma. So, yeah, I think that's a concern coming into this game, specifically how they played against Tulane, more specifically the second half. But then, with the best team that Oklahoma has faced here in the non-conference schedule, to be missing two starters is concerning. Also, we had talked off air. Brian Darby, I believe, is out as well for Oklahoma at the wide receiver position. So, having him out plus Theo Weiss, starts to question that depth a little bit at the wide receiver position. Oklahoma has looked pretty solid, a little bit better than what they were last year in terms of the product. So I think you've got 3 or 4 guys that are probably playing maybe a little bit more minutes than maybe they have in the past couple of weeks. So Marvin Mims, Mario Williams, Jaden Hazelwood, Mike Woods, those are your 4 main guys, and then you've got Drake Stoops as well. So maybe not as deep here, but not as big of a concern at the wide receiver position as maybe the secondary.
Brian Darby, 4 catches, 42 yards through the first 2 weeks. Bowman and Washington both with 5 tackles. Bowman with a tackle for loss. And Jason, when a situation comes to light like this regarding injuries, it's always interesting to see whether the option and the choice is to go with the next man up, meaning the next guy in the depth chart at that position, boom, just move him up, that there's enough confidence in that particular player. Or are we going to slide somebody over from another position and then maybe fill their position from the second or third team with somebody that we feel more confident with over there? And it certainly kind of shows the hand of the coaching staff in regards to who's developing well and who they have confidence in at that point.
No, absolutely, Mark. I think that's a good point. And I think that's why I mentioned I think they probably look to slide a Delarian Turner-Yell over just because of his, he's a third-year starter in the back end for Oklahoma. So I think they're probably a little bit more comfortable with him at the nickelback spot. Jeremiah Cradell, really played a lot there. Wasn't extremely impressive, to be honest, just in terms of his and his tackling was a little bit weak, I would say, against Western Carolina. Not completely weak, but just wasn't as aggressive and sound fundamentally as you would like. So I think they probably feel a little bit more comfortable with with Delarian Turner-Yell switching over there as probably the starter with Key Lawrence there in the back end. And the safety position in the secondary is probably one of the ones where they don't have as much depth as they would like, a solid depth. So I think that also kind of plays into that decision. Do they not feel as comfortable with that with the depth either at the nickelback spot or even at the safety spot. So I think to your question about the cornerback, I think it's a little bit different situation. I think you probably got a guy like Latrell McCutcheon that could slide in there. I think he started last week, as a freshman. Alex Grinch was talked after the Tulane game exactly who was the most impressive of those kids in the secondary. He first and foremost mentioned Latrell McCutcheon, a long kid, very athletic. So I think he probably, if he wasn't already, he's probably there, slotted for that spot probably along with DJ Graham on the secondary.